We spend so much of our lives, especially when we're commuting, just running on pure autopilot. We totally rely on these unspoken social contracts to keep us feeling safe. But what happens when those invisible rules are just suddenly broken? Today, we're doing a full explainer on a seriously chilling late-night metro encounter, and we're going to break down the anatomy of how primal fear actually operates in isolated public spaces. Let's get right into it.
So, have you ever felt totally trapped under a stranger's unblinking gaze on an empty train? I want you to put yourself directly in the shoes of the protagonist for a second. You're a young girl traveling entirely alone late at night. The car is mostly empty, you've got those fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and it's that very specific time of night where the city's hustle has completely faded out. It leaves this eerie, hollow quiet. Naturally, your situational awareness is heightened, but you're in a moving metal box. There's literally nowhere to go. You're completely vulnerable. Now, we all rely on peripheral vision to monitor our surroundings, but when someone locks onto you like that, it taps into a very deep, very primal human fear, and it sets off an immediate visceral alarm bell in your nervous system.
All right, Section 1, Late Night Metro Journey. Which leads us to Section 2, the unblinking stare. Okay, so suddenly the protagonist realizes she isn't alone. Sitting directly across from her is a woman, flanked by two older men. And this woman is staring at her, intently. I mean, this isn't just some casual glance that lingers a second too long. It is a fixed, disturbing presence. It's a complete disruption of how people are supposed to act in public. So the girl tries the standard defense mechanism, right? She looks away, she pretends not to notice, she's doing the universal body language for, I am minding my own business. But the woman never breaks eye contact. From an analytical standpoint, the failure of this normal social deflection totally voids the standard rules of engagement, and this is exactly where that creeping sense of fear is birthed.
Section 3. Arrival of the stranger.
Notice the sequence of escalation here. The train arrives at the next station, the doors open, and the danger just compounds. Back at Station 1, we establish the baseline threat with the staring woman. But by Station 2, the tension completely multiplies. A tall man wearing a trench coat boards the train and decides to sit right next to her. We are literally mapping out a timeline of absolute dread, the claustrophobia of being trapped between stations, just agonizingly waiting for Station 3. In an already hypervigilant state, the arrival of this physically imposing stranger is a massive stressor. She's now caught between the unblinking woman across from her and this completely unknown new variable right beside her.
And this brings us to the most deeply unsettling part of the whole narrative. Let's compare these reactions. On one side, we have the girl's completely normal, escalating panic as a stranger sits right next to her. But in stark contrast, look at the staring woman across the aisle. She shows a total lack of reaction to this imposing new arrival. And even more bizarrely, the two old men sitting on either side of her display complete apathy. It's like an extreme, unnatural form of the bystander effect. This massive contrast between the internal panic of the girl and the unnatural stillness of the other passengers is a totally critical behavioral anomaly. But you want to know the most crucial, eerie detail? The old men never looked at her. Not even once. Basic human situational awareness dictates that you'd at least track movement in your peripheral vision if a tall guy in a trench coat boarded an empty train and sat right next to a lone young woman, right? But despite the growing, palpable tension in that train car, and despite the woman between them just staring a hole through the girl, the two old men flanking her do not move their eyes. They are unnaturally frozen.
Let's move to Section 4, the sudden escape. The train finally pulls into the station and the climax unfolds with terrifying speed. The atmosphere just snaps. The tall man stands up as if he's about to leave, violently grabs the girl's hand without any warning, and physically drags her out of her seat just as the doors open. In a split second, her creeping psychological dread becomes a full-on, kinetic physical assault. It seemingly confirms her absolute worst, most terrifying fears about this new stranger.
He grabbed her hand tightly. The sheer, sudden panic of this exact moment really cannot be overstated. After all those stops and starts of silent, agonizing tension, the physical boundary is suddenly breached, and without a single word of warning.
He pulled her right off the train. They are rushing across the threshold of the doors, and the girl is completely overpowered. She's frantic, totally unable to stop the momentum of this massive stranger hauling her out into the unknown.
And then the doors close. The train leaves.
The metallic screech of the wheels fades down the tunnel. That frantic energy just abruptly flatlines. We are left on the platform. The girl is screaming loudly, completely disoriented and absolutely terrified. She's just been ripped from the train by a physically imposing stranger. The isolation on this platform is absolute. She is completely alone with the man she fully believes is her attacker.
Section 5. The terrifying truth.
So we are in the immediate aftermath. Her fight-or-flight response is totally maxed out. She believes with every fiber of her being that she has just been abducted. But as the sound of the train disappears, the man in the trench coat turns to her. He doesn't attack. Instead, he looks right at her, and over her screams, he reveals a truth that turns the entire narrative completely upside down. He says, "I saved your life. The woman sitting across from you is dead, and the two men next to her were holding her body up." It's a twist that completely recontextualizes every single second of the entire story. The danger wasn't the man dragging her off the train. The danger was what she was trapped inside with.
Now, let's connect this final horrific revelation back to all those behavioral anomalies we talked about earlier. The puzzle pieces fit together perfectly. That unblinking stare that terrified the girl, it was a dead gaze, the rigid, fixed eyes of a corpse. The woman ignored the tall man because she was deceased. And the most chilling detail of all, why the old men never reacted? Because all of their physical effort, all of their concentration, was focused entirely on propping up a dead body between them to make it look completely natural. This right here is a terrifying example of subconscious threat detection. Her primal situational awareness signaled extreme danger long before her logic could actually explain why. Her brain just knew the environment was fundamentally wrong.
So I want to leave you with a question today. What primal warning signs are you ignoring in your environment right now? We so often brush off our instincts as just paranoia. We prioritize being polite over being safe. But as this explainer clearly shows, sometimes that cold prickle of dread on the back of your neck isn't just your imagination playing tricks on you. Sometimes your subconscious has already noticed the strings holding the nightmare together. Stay sharp out there and always stay aware.